All
I
right.
hate that I'm so stupid on this computer.
It's fine.
If it had wings, I might figure it out.
All right. We are recording, Don. So what do we got going on tonight?
All right, we're going to talk about shipping queens because I got a lot of people here that are shipping queens. I'm going to touch on Nosema, and I brought this toy in. If you're going to check for Nosema, it's a little investment. You probably could send them off, but let's talk about shipping queens. This is how we ship the majority of them. This is a flat rate box. Well, it folds this way, and as you can see, you see all these holes. Now, I don't care how good that you make queens in your bee yard. If you can't get them across the country alive, you ain't done nothing. Now, this goes to the post office, and everybody that works at the post office, they're like a little kid. They gotta shake the hell out of this box. And you notice there's nothing making noise? I got 2 cages in there. You didn't hear them, did you? But if they're loose in here, and they move around, they're going to shake the hell out of them. They're going to kill your bees. Okay, the next thing is these holes. Let me get back here. You can't find a paper punch to come down far enough in here. And now these labels, you can make them on a computer or you can buy them. We put one live bees on the back and one on the front. Where the address goes here, we usually put our state certificate here. Because if you don't have a state inspection certificate, they might get through the post office. But if somebody at some outdoor post office in the boonies somewhere and he's on his toes, if it doesn't have that health certificate on, he can hold your shipment up until you can prove that they've been inspected. So I'm just mentioning that. Now, as cheap as I am, you know you can't buy a punch. So here is my punch. This is what they call a galvanized nipple, and you can see it's been beat to pieces. And this makes a nice 3/8 hole. You can punch it anywhere in this box. You lay it flat on a piece of board, and then when you want to punch out your cuttings, you take a small file and you push them out. Now this also, we cut our own corks for a shipping box for the queen cages. Now, has anybody got any questions on this before I move on to something else? I know this is real simple. Flat rate box, normally I've got 2 in here. You can see they're just 2. And what I'm using is a desktop stapler. It's about a 23 gauge. And I try to space my queen cages out to where the holes will be around it. And I put them in from the back. And now the label will go over the top of the staple so that those people in the post office don't get their manicures messed up. Okay, anybody got any questions on any of that?
How many queens do you normally have in a box?
This box here, you can put between 10 and 15 comfortable. This here, I don't know what the rate is. Last year, I think it was $7.50, and they gave you $50 worth of insurance. So if you put 10 queens in here, add an additional insurance to cover that. Mm-hmm. And this is priority mail. You can ship them overnight, and it's the same amount. You have to add the insurance on it. I'm not sure about all that because I'm in the bee yard. Either my wife or Steven's mailing the things. If you want to use the next size box up, if you're going to get bigger, you could go to about 100. You can buy what they call Queen Right shipper from like Man Lake. I think the last time I checked, they're $6 or $7. But if you get the next size, it's about twice that, so 3 times that size. And you know the little board or the stick that goes across on your frames? It's a wedge bar. What we usually do, get this off, we stand them up in rows, and I think we go 10 or 12 long, and we put a stick on each end of the queen cage. That way you get airflow through here. And then you can stand them up and you can put like, I think it's 10 rows of 10. You can put 100 in there. But most of ours, we ship out in this box here, like 10, 15 with no problem. Okay, next thing is people have nosema. You can check that with a cheap microscope. This one here, I don't know if I can get it to work here. There's a button on the back. And can you see the light goes on in it? This here is got, it's 40, 4, and 10. So you can check for nosema with this thing. And this thing's under $40, $45. And it's called a school microscope. For your own use if you want to use it. The next thing is, we got a bunch of nucs. And you probably bought nucs from other bee supply places. This is the end of a 5-frame nuc. No knots, good clean joints. Here's the other end. This is the other end. These are 5-frame nucs that Antler Ridge was talking about. I'm not quoting no prices. This is the side for your box. Most bee supply houses sell these as select. Now, I don't have a hammer, but let's see. Put it together. Now, can you see the joints? I mean, I got a sawmill. I can make my own wood. But for the price that you can buy these things for, you could just buy a pellet or two of them and you go to town. I have bought from other suppliers that had, on these pieces here, had a lot of knotting and was not the greatest. And people that don't like to build their own stuff, Todd runs Antler Ridge, and he is kind of commissioned through me to make my hive top feeder. And if you want those joints on it, he'll do those joints. I won't quote you a price. He's building them. He's going to quote you a price if you want to order from him. And I know if you buy in lots, you can get a discount. Now, I know everybody's just raring these questions, so we're going to start taking questions tonight.
Okay. Greg, did you have a question still?
I was going to, Don answered it. I was going to ask about the, at what point do you put the extra insurance on the queens there? But it sounds like they come with about, what, $100 or so for free as far as insurance goes. So if you start getting over 4 or 5 queens, and it sounds like it's worth it to go ahead.
I think what Steven's been doing on the flat rate boxes, I think he's been charging $12 or $12.50, and that covers up to, I'm not sure, but you'd have to ask him. I think it goes up to about 10 queens, because the post office gives you $50, and then if you buy extra.
Okay.
Now, get across with your customer that they make the claim, because if they have a dispute, they need to take a picture or take the queen cage or whatever to the post office. Now, if you're going to ship queens, there's a lot of carriers out there, FedEx, the brown truck. The post office might have a lot of bad things about it, but it's the only place that guarantees live delivery. Everybody else will take your money as insurance, but read the fine print. No guarantee of live delivery. And I've been down that road. I've lost nucs out west where on a ranch, they can't get the gate to open, and the FedEx truck or the brown truck, UPS, dropped them at the gate and they sat in the sun and they cooked. And they will not make it good. I had to make it good. So if that helps answer your question on shipping these.
Thank you.
Okay. Over to Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Don, I don't know if you saw those pictures I posted on the website.
I seen them pictures. That no matter how long you keep bees, it's not a good sight.
Oh, God. So my question is, do you think I should do an oxalic treatment even though the bees are dead? You think the mites are dead as well, or there still might be some mites in there?
I don't think I'd worry about them. If you're worried about them, bump out the loose stuff. You can take the side of the frame gently and bump it on the side a little bit. And the dead bees that's head first, they'll drop out. Majority of them will. Drop the stuff in the freezer. I think you'll be okay.
Otherwise, just leave it outside, Paul, because we've got the freezing weather. I think
Well,
they're all dead.
The
Yeah.
only problem is up north, I've done that up north. I've been down that road. In the wintertime, if there's dead things in that box, there's critters out there can smell that, and they're going to come and eat. And they'll eat your comb and your wax up just to get the dead stuff in there. I don't know if it's skunks or possums, but it will happen.
Well, I still got the electric fence on, but I'm talking like 800 frames.
That's a big wallop. Now, you know that sinking feeling you have?
Yeah.
I've had that 10 times worse when I went out my front yard and had all them beehives stolen. So, you know, it happens to everybody. You just have to, you know, keep your head up. The thing that you have to do is treat those bees a lot. You're not going to over-treat them, but you can certainly under-treat them. I think if you'd hit them good in October and November, at least 2 or 3 times a month, going into December, hit them, I think you'd be in good shape.
I just don't know as far as treatment wise, like where to start in the spring. I don't want to use all of these heavy duty chemicals like the Formic Pro and all of that crap. I'd rather just stay with the oxalic acid.
Well, there's a lot of different treatments, and you can talk to a lot of different people, and they're having various results. There's people out there that have halfway decent luck with just powder sugar. There's a lot of people that don't do no treatment and just break the mite cycle. So you could be in an area where you got other people that's got bees that don't treat them at all, and you're getting the overflow of their pests. So it's hard to say. I would definitely treat them, though.
Oh no, I found that out. You know, I definitely I just didn't treat enough.
Yeah.
You know, I have the vaporizer.
It's about the cheapest that you can use. I mean, you can go to, there's, you know, you've done mention part of there. You go on the treatment thing, there's all kind of them. You just, the person itself has to believe in the product. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to put in my hive, you know.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to contaminate my wax, number one.
Well, that's number one for me. So, you know, if you're treating with any of those harsh things, it's going to build up. Unless you start selling a lot of nucs and then you don't get your wax over 2 to 3 years.
Well, it's like I said, I'd rather stick with the oxalic acid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't want to use that heavy duty crap. I mean, you know, you gotta, first of all, it's expensive.
On scientific beekeeping, Randy Oliver, he's done a lot of stuff on the oxalic acid. They've done the treatments with the dribble. I don't like it myself. I like the vapor. I mean, each beekeeper is going to be different. But he's done a lot of research and stuff on it. So, you know, he's doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing up here.
I think it's like you said, though, if I would have treated going into winter, I wouldn't have had the losses I had.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, those hives were packed with bees, and I think the mites just overtook it all.
The biggest thing I'm hearing from a lot of people is they've got strong hives. They're going out the next day, and there's no bees left. I mean, most of the time, you're going to find a bunch of dead bees in the bottom.
Yeah. Well, I know what to do this year, that's for sure.
I know somebody could sell you some packages.
I want to get your bees. I got to talk to this guy. He's 20 minutes from me. If he's coming down to pick them up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
I think the combination of the genetics that I've got, I think, you know, and I'm not putting words in people's mouth. You can listen to them on this chat from all over the place. I'm not running those specialized bees, but they seem to do good in the south. They do good in the north, and they're gentle. They make honey. So that combination, you know, I had a new student today, and he's talking about buying some Purdue ankle biters. I said, well, you know, might be a lot of propaganda about it. I says, but, you know, it's worth a try. I would probably try 1 or maybe 2 to see how they do. My main thing is I want a bee that is workable, because a lot of new beekeepers, you know, they're going to wear a full bee suit. And if they get a bee in their suit, you know, they can come out of that bee suit 10 times faster than they can get into it. So, and you want something that's going to live for you too.
Yeah, somebody mentioned those Purdue queens saying that they had some type of varroa resistance or whatever.
Well, Marla Spivak, I bought some of her stock, and those are supposed to be the VSH, hygienic, and I've had another student that tried some. I personally didn't care for them. I thought they was a little too aggressive. So I've had Russians here, purebred Russians, and I did not care for them. When you work the frame, the bees are in the air. So it goes back to whatever you get, are they going to live and can you work them?
Yeah. What are you treating, Woody?
Nothing right now.
He's fortunate. They all froze up there.
That's about it.
Well,
Don't
you
know if they're
have
alive yet.
people in different areas that don't do any type treatment and they have good results. And then you get on the road 20 miles and the guy does the same thing. He's losing bees. So I think a lot of it is management. Go through the hives and be watching on them. You know, keep looking, checking.
Yeah. You lost everything, E?
Don't know yet. It hasn't been nice enough to check on them. Maybe
Yeah, I
tomorrow it'll be 50 here, so I'll check them.
Well, I got one left out of 20.
Well, you better keep them going. You better put them on life support.
I told my wife I'm going to move them into the house.
There you go. That sounds like a good deal.
Oh, God. All right, that's it for now, Don.
Well, just don't give up. I mean, I don't care who's out there. You know, if anybody that tells you they're not losing bees are lying or they never had bees. So, you know.
Oh, no, I'm not giving up. I'm in too deep to give up. So.
You're never in it too deep.
All right, over to Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, Dawn.
Hey,
How'd you make out on your quest for the fructose syrup? Did you find somebody to get you 20 totes?
actually, well, I can't get 20 totes at one time, but a new student started today, and he's within 30 minutes of a guy that can get it for me, and we can probably haul maybe two to three totes at a time over here. So I called him today to verify it. When I try to do business with somebody, I have to have somebody that can supply it on a regular basis and supply it the demand that I need. I mean, some people might, you know, get the corn syrup and it's a one or two time deal with them. We have to have it, you know, it's just like us. We have to eat every day. These bees have to eat every day if you want to make them grow.
Yeah, just for the hell of it, you know, I looked on the internet and, you know, there was a list of manufacturers and I looked for ones near you and there was one in, I think the closest one I saw to you was in Tennessee. So
I called, I think there was one in Tennessee at ADM.
Yeah, it was ADM or Kunica, one of them. Yeah. I mean,
Cargill, we called Cargill. What they want to sell you is a tanker, and a tanker you got to buy a minimum of 3,000 gallons. So that's about $18,000 to $20,000. And ADM did not return our call yet, so maybe they're just busy.
Yeah, right. I just told them if they can deliver 20 totes to Lula, Georgia, and I put your phone number in there. So
Yeah.
no one ever contacted you? No?
Well, I've called the one number that you send me. I got my screen to open up wide enough. I got that one number off, and then I called them. And I think that was a buck passing there. The one woman called and says, I'll have somebody else call you. And they never did call, but one person I did talk to them.
Okay.
A tanker is not very much for these large companies. They don't want to fool around with the small guy. That's why I mentioned you know, we need to get together, form some kind of little co-op to where we can buy stuff, you know, because not everybody's going to buy pallets of stuff like we do. And if instead of buying 5 or 10 pallets, if we bought 100 pallets of something, we could probably get a better price on anything. Same with the sugar, you know?
Yeah, well, do any of the bee clubs, I would think that the bee clubs would get together and buy whatever, 10 or 20 pallets of sugar.
Well, the one bee club that I belong to, they go to where we used to buy our sugar in Savannah at the port there. And they're just going there, picking up and doubling the price, which, you know, that's business. They got to pay for fuel and tires or whatever else goes there. But the volume that we do, we probably use too much volume to actually be buying it from the, a middleman. We need to get it more to the direct.
Well, my bees over.
And you have to shave, I talked to a guy today and we're talking a nickel dime difference per, item. And it makes a difference when you start buying in volume.
Well, my bees over in the Longan orchard over there, they've probably been over there for about 3 weeks now. And yeah, they're bringing in nectar, but they're not going to fill a super in a week like you guys have in the United States.
Are you treating often enough?
What do you mean treated?
Are you treating with oxalic acid with their bees? You had a couple pictures of your frames. I think you had some frames on where you had some bee problems.
Yeah, that was a long time. That was months ago.
Oh. On my screen, I can pull it apart and I could take a small thing and I can enlarge it really big. And it looked like you had mite debris in the side of the cells on a couple of those frames that you had. I think it was you. Maybe I'm wrong.
But I treated with I got the Provate and I treated 4 times. And when I treat, I just took printer paper. I took white paper and I put it on the bottom of the hive. I don't have sticky board or any of that stuff. I just put white notebook paper on the bottom of the hive and I treated 4 different times. I never saw one drop, not even one. Nothing.
Well, what you're going to treat, what we used to use was white shelving paper and get a can of PAM and spray that sheet, put it in there. Now, if you're using that Provap, you might not be getting enough concentration in there. Are you blocking the entrance?
Yes, yeah.
Are you blocking the top off? You got a hive top feeder on there with vents on. Are you blocking them?
I don't have a hive top feeder.
Okay.
But I didn't do anything to block the top, but I put a damp towel over the entrance, and I don't see a lot of vapor coming out under the cover because I leave the brick on top of the cover so it keeps it down.
Are you using 1 scoop or 2 scoops per treatment?
Well, I only got 1 box, so I think 1 box isn't 1 box a half a scoop.
No. 1 box is 1 heap and scoop. And if you got a super on it, I would put 2 on there. You should see some vapors coming out the cracks between your boxes or underneath your lid. You should be seeing that. If you're not getting a good burn or your temperature's not high enough.
No, I was getting, good vapor, but whatever the directions say, it was a whole one of those red scoops. I did what it said, let's put it that way. And then, I talked to my friend that lives a little ways away from me, and he was putting his boxes in the Longan orchards 2 years before me. So I sent him an email and I said, Peter, when you're putting them in the orchard, did you ever have to put a second box on? And he said, very rarely, and I only filled it like halfway. So this just isn't a good place to be a beekeeper.
I've never been there, so I can't argue that with you.
Anyway, I enjoy playing with them and doing what I can and learning what I can. So, okay, I'll let someone else ask a question.
Okay, over to Greg Curley. Hang on, you're still muted. Yeah, I can't do it. You gotta do it on your side, it looks like. There you go.
Yeah, I'm getting away from that subject just a little bit, but this is my first spring buildup, and I'm on about the same latitude as Don over in Alabama. And the bees are building up real quick, and actually I have all 5 frame nucs except for one. I put her in a 10, and I had to put supers on each one of them. And I thought I had them under control, but I got up this morning and found swarms. And it's my first swarms that I've ever dealt with. And I took the swarms and placed them in a box. They all marched right in like they're supposed to. I didn't find the queen on one, but they acted as if they knew where they were going and they liked where they were. But the
Okay.
question I got is right toward the end of the day, there's a thunderstorm coming. And I checked my last hive, which is in the out yard. And there was a swarm on the front of the box, and they're just, hanging off the front of it pretty large. And I ran around trying to find another nuke to put them in. And I have a feeling by the time I got back, it was just about to rain. There's thunder and lightning in the area. And I did take what bees were on the front of the hive and rake them into the new nuke. And then it looked like they were trying to retreat back into the hive because it looks like they changed their mind maybe. So I took the nuke that I raked the bees into, which had, frames or whatever in it, and I put it on a cinder block facing the original hive. And they could go back and forth, but do you think they may actually move into the new hive, in the morning when it's clear, it's supposed to be warm and sunny, and they may come out and just move right on in, or do I need to be really vigilant and do the swarm before?
Let's go back to when you get a swarm. If you have a swarm on your box or by the tree, the best thing to do is get a frame of honey and stick it in the 5-frame box. Close the box up, go over to where the swarm is. If it's a branch, either break it off or bump it down in front of the hive or the nuke box. And when you start to see a few of them going in the box, move it back 5 or 6 inches. You might have to do that 10 times. You might move it 10 or 15 feet. What you're doing is you're stretching out a group of bees in a long, thin line. And then you can spot the queen. Because if it's a spring swarm, you're going to have more than one queen in it. Now, the ones on the front, when you scoop those in, they could have been, box was full and they're out there cooling off. Now, if you had a swarm, you need to find the box that they come out of, because you're going to have an after swarm, or you're going to have cells in there that's not hatched yet. So those are things you should, be careful of. I'm not a firm believer in a lot of people that put those YouTube videos up where they put a box under a branch and just bump the bees in. You only save one swarm, and you could have probably made 2 or 3 out of it. I've had videos here and students been here where there's been 10, 20, 30 queens in the spring. And usually around April, 10 queens is not unheard of at all. So have extra queen cages. You know what a queen cage looks like? These things right here, whenever you get a package, I keep these in my hive top feeders in just about all my boxes out there. Because if you're out in the bee yard, you don't have time to run to the house, the garage, and find a queen cage. If it's right there, all you have to do is just reach in there and grab it, because when you stretch those bees out, you might have 10 or 20 queens. They're not going to kill each other, only until they get in the hive. Then they'll start to fight, to kill each other. So, right now, if they're making queen cells, is a perfect time to make some splits.
Well, we had one large hive at an out yard at my partner's yard, and that there were at least, we didn't go all the way through the hive because the weather was getting bad, but we saw 5 different cells, and they're full of bees. Time to do some splits. So this time of year, a 2-frame split would be good enough.
Well, yeah, you right now you can leave in the same yard. If you got wood and wax, or are you on plastic?
Wood and wax mainly.
All right, if you're on wood and wax, get a boning knife or a small steak knife, cut the cells apart. Each cell, put it in with a frame of honey and shake you some extra bees in there. You can put them in the same yard. If the swarm or the amount of bees you're putting in there is not much, put a little piece of screen across the entrance and hold them in there for a day or 2. Now's the best time if you want to build numbers. One hive can make 30 or 40 in a week's time.
Okay, if we were to have a frame with that was a plastic foundation that had a cell on it, best thing is just move the whole frame and use that as a donut.
Yeah, some people, if they got a good steady hand and a good thin blade, they might get them. But I've been doing this for a long time, and every time I've tried it, you shave the back side of that cell. When you open that queen cell up, you don't want to hatch them. So if you're going to start making numbers out, build you some queen castles. That way you can put 4 frames in 4 positions and make 4 miniature hives. Or put the frame in there, and if you're not working, check it every 15 minutes. When the first queen hatches, Move that whole frame to another box and start another hive. Leave that virgin queen in there with enough bees to fly out and mate.
Okay. Well, thank you much. That answers my question.
Okay.
I got a follow up to that, Don.
Okay.
I didn't believe you until last summer about multiple queens in a swarm.
Mhm.
And I did catch a swarm last year, and sure enough, it kind of split in two after I got them into the box.
Mhm.
And I caught one queen, thankfully, and put her aside, and then I was able to split them. But
Mhm.
how does the swarm split in half for each queen, or how does that work?
Not necessarily. If you have an established hive, overwintered hive, or if you build a hive up, once they get a certain number, get crowded in that and they got queens, you could have 10, 20, 30 queens go out. They're not going to fight. Sometimes when you drop them off of a branch or put them in a box, you're only going to see one or two because the bees are so massive, they just cover everything up. And the young queens, they move fast. If you can't pick a queen up, or if you're afraid to pick one up, get a queen cage, put it down in front of the queen, and just take your fingers and put your fingers right behind the queen.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have gloves on, usually the heat from your fingers will make her move up into that cage. And then put a cork in it, and don't fasten it where you can't get at it, because if you find 5 or 6 or more queens, you can set more up. And they don't have to, all the bees don't have to come out of the same hive. If you catch, say, 5 queens in that swarm, you could go to another one of your hives, pull out a frame, find a queen, and take one frame you know the queen's not on, and shake all them bees into a nuke box, put that queen with that cage in there, and leave it for 2 days, then open release it. That's another way you can do them.
All right, I got to carry more queen cages in my pockets, I guess. All right, over to Greg Burns. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Don, earlier in the year, I had asked you if you were to do things all over again, and you were dumb enough to keep bees in Ohio like some of us, what you would do differently. Mention that you'd overwinter in nuke boxes.
Right.
And I just wanted to most folks have probably already tried it, and if they hadn't, encourage them to do that. Every year we manage to kill less and less bees, and we keep learning some things the hard way. But we're seeing, just like you had said there, everything's in double mediums. We have some single mediums that are actually doing okay too in nuke boxes, but all the 5 frames that are in double mediums, they're doing fantastic. But there's a big difference in how the double 5s look versus the double 8s. It's hard to put words to it, but the nukes that are in doubles, mediums, there's a certain even keelness to the box. We've had some warm days, and I've gone in and we're checking, adding some dry sugar. The 8-frame boxes, they're almost getting to be a little too rambunctious this soon in the box, where the kind of vibe to the boxes, they're almost pushing too hard, where the 5 frames seem like it still seems just right. And so when we get here into May and June, I'm getting the feeling like they're going to do a little better than the 8s. Like the 8s might be pushing too hard as they build up. So I just wanted to throw it out there that the 5s seem to be doing really, really well. And in this journey of learning, I got lazy last year on treating mites, and I did order a Pro Vape. It just came, and so I'm looking forward to getting started with that. I wanted to ask you, right now that I'm overwintered, we're creeping up. We're getting some warm weather, creeping at 50s, even low 60s. Low nights are getting down to like 30. I was going to ask, when would you recommend that I go ahead and start the Oxalic regiment, number 1? And number 2, all my boxes are real similar to yours, where I've got holes drilled in the front for the entrance, no bottom entrance, just a hole. And then I've got the hole also with hardware cloth on the back for events. So when would be a good time to go ahead and start treating? And then number 2, do I need to consider doing something to block the hardware cloth entrance or the vent so the vapor can stay in the box a little longer?
Well, what you can do is take a roll of masking tape.
Okay.
You can use, it's like a duct tape, but it sticks too much. It leaves a stickiness. That cheap old paper masking tape usually works the best.
Okay.
Just get your roll of 1-inch stuff. And I used to run my wheelbarrow around there with that tape right there and just tape up the hole.
Okay.
The main thing is you got to keep enough of that vapor inside the hive. But I've tried things that other people done that don't work. That's why I'm doing it. In fact, a student this morning says, you spend a lot of time giving a lot of free information out. And I said, it's not so much that. I want each person to be successful. I mean, you don't have to buy bees from me. Everybody in the world selling bees. Everybody in the world selling equipment. I'm giving free advice, and I made a lot of mistakes. And I can tell a lot of people that, if it's not a gizmo or some kind of gimmick about it, they don't think they're getting a good deal. But I have found people in Ohio are starting to listen, and in New York and a lot of other, where they was going with double 10s, they're going to 5s and put them in double 5 and finding better survival rate. So, over the years, you learn what works and what don't work and what you're more successful at. But you can make a lot of honey if making 5-frame boxes make a lot of honey too.
When would you think would be a good time? I understand that if I have viruses that the bees currently have and they're going to struggle into the spring, there's nothing I'm going to do that's going to save that now. But as
for
they
viruses, we start feeding already tea tree oil. We've been putting that in our feed right now. We've been putting that in the yards he's using south of here, they've been feeding for 3 or 4 weeks with tea tree oil. We usually give them a lot of tea tree oil in the spring and then in the fall, get it ready for winter.
To get ahead of any mites that might be creeping up once we get closer to
I wouldn't worry about mites too much until the weather stays pretty much above 55 and they're flying good and bringing a lot of pollen in. And then, if you got 2 to 3 frames of brood, then start treating,
Perfect. Excellent. Thanks, Don.
Okay, over to Chris Garrett. Hang on, still muted. There you go.
How's it going, guys?
Hey.
Hey, Don, I was just going to talk to you about, normally you talk about pulling the honey off the hives to build the brood up. Right now we've been feeding the heavy sugar syrup and everything's been doing pretty good, and the bees are really growing big. I was thinking about getting that honey out of there like you talked about before. I just wanted to see what you thought about it. Should I just double up and keep them on the hive still? But they've been taking that sugar syrup pretty, strong.
Where do you live at?
San Antonio, pretty close, Texas.
Well, if you're in a good warm area, you're still going to get a little bit cool area. Now, you might think about putting a second box on and just doing a checkerboarding. But, I don't know what your whole intentions is. If you're trying to build a lot of numbers, if you find going through your hives, you've got multiple hives. If you've got queen cells, that would be the time I'd pull a queen cell, go to that hive you're trying to get rid of that honey, put it in there, use it to feed the bees.
Right.
That's what I like to do myself.
Okay.
Because I know that the honey will do a lot better than all the feeding you can do.
True. Okay. And I was going to say, too, I treated with oxalic acid this last week, and some of the bees come out of the hive more than normal. I think I hit them a little bit harder than I normally did.
Well,
but
what are you treating them with, a wand, or are you treating them with a Provat?
Doing the fogger right now. I'm going to do the Provat pretty quick. I have one that I'm making a copy of, but I've been doing the fogger.
The fogger now, are you using mineral oil and wintergreen, or are you using Everclear and oxalic acid?
I'm doing the Everclear, oxalic acid, and a little bit of glycerin.
Okay, well, my personal thing is, and I've discussed it probably 3 times on different chats, we did 1 yard and we done it. I hear a lot of things just like everybody does. The internet, you hear a lot of things, all for trying new things. We did that in 1 yard. And within 1 month, it had soaring mites. Oxalic acid by itself will work, vaporizing it. Everclear with a little bit of oxalic acid, the first hive is going to get some treatment. But as it's burning off, by the time you get to the second and third, the amount of oxalic acid going to the hive seems to drop off really fast. The overall effect is, to my opinion, wasting your time. The cost of that Everclear, you'd be better off to use straight oxalic acid.
Right. That's what I'm going to try to go to.
Results with mineral oil and wintergreen. But, you know, you're going to have to do that more often.
Mm-hmm. I've been doing the wintergreen and the tea tree oil and the syrup. Not really crazy, a lot of it, but I've been doing quite a bit.
Well, see, if you're doing the wintergreen spearmint, and you could put the tea tree oil in there and tiny little bit of wintergreen or lemongrass oil, but you got to be very sparingly. You cause a lot of robbing if you don't.
I've had problems. I don't do it no more.
Yeah, that's just like a honeybee healthy. It'll build them up fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But, you know, they're feeding that brood builder with that essence of oils into the feed. As they feed that brood, you're less likely to develop as many mites, if any. So every little bit you do is going to be better. Right.
I really never had a problem with mites yet, but you never know.
I would throw you some shelving paper in there and just get a can of regular old Pam and spray it lightly. Stick it in there before you do your treatment and check and see what you got.
That's good. Good deal. Thank you, Don.
All right.
Okay. Over to Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
You was talking about the swarms, and it occurred to me, I've caught more than one queen than a swarm.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is that wouldn't the majority of them queens be virgins?
Not all the time. It depends on when they swarm and how long they've been up in the air. You know, because if you're going to have drones, the problem in certain areas right now, if you do got drones, they might not be mature. And then, you know, by the time you see that swarm, has it just came out of the box or has it swarmed and re-landed 2 or 3 times? See, there's a lot of little ifs in there.
Okay,
but
I'm just curious on that.
Even if you're going by the assumption that you have virgin queens, you cage them up. Be careful how you handle them. Put them in there in another nuke box. If they do fly out to remate, what have you lost?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I thought about that. I said, well, most of your swarms have the old queen leave. And I've caught that. And I've always done what you said not to do, just dump them in the box.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, I'll try that and let them march in. I've caught, I think, 4 or 5 at a time.
Yeah.
And it just hit me a while ago. You wouldn't want 4 or 5 mated queens in a box.
Well, sometimes in the springtime, what I see a lot of times, people, I don't know, they just don't listen. They'll take a box under a limb and just bump it. Maybe they just don't care and just let them fight it out. But I have seen occasions where there's 5 or 6 pounds of bees at least in a swarm. They dump them in the box, and for some reason they don't want to stay. They leave. I don't know if they fight each other, kill the queens, or what's going on. Or when they drop that swarm in the box, they kill the queen. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just curious. And also, you got a young wife?
Do I have a young wife?
I got a call yesterday from a young lady saying, could I come next week and pick up packages? And I said,
my daughter. Young. No, I don't have a young wife. I got a young daughter. She's 48. I mean, she's doing a lot of the emails. She's helping us out that way.
Well, she was nice. I told her you'd talk me into waiting to spring, which was in April, which was probably a good move considering our weather up here.
Well, a lot of people, I guess you can watch the weather. You know, we've had 2 tornadoes go through Georgia. We're at the fall line. So a lot of our hives are below the fall line. Sometimes we get 2 to 3 inches and there's yards down there. We can't even get a four-wheel drive through it. Yeah. So I think my daughter's contacted people and told them, you know, when the weather's right, we got a bunch going out in March. We're trying to switch things around to where the weather's going to suit each person. And take care of it. And I told it because there's only 1 or 2 people that are kind of bullheaded and they got a date set and they got to have them. I said, well, if they got to have them and we don't have them, just give them their money back. That's all we can do. We can't make the weather do what we want to do.
Well, she said, can you make it next week? And I said, oh, okay. It's probably a good thing I listened to because I still got snow patches. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I told her, I'll meet you down in April. Would it be all right to come down a day or 2 early and learn a few things from you?
Yeah, I learned some things from you.
I doubt it, but anyway, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Got a lull in the questions right now, so I'm going to take some from the website. Tony wants to know, I am starting new hives this spring with nucs. Should I staple the political sign beetle traps to the bottom board with boric acid and Crisco in them before I install, or do they need to acclimate to the hive first?
I would put them in before, and if you're going to that method of beetle control, you want to get 10 or 12 political signs and no more than about a half a teaspoonful of boric acid. And what you want to do is stand them on end, take the Crisco and seal the holes, and then turn them upside down and then just dribble that half a teaspoon in, because you only want a few granules in each of those little holes. Now, the problem we had when I put that video on YouTube is people don't listen or they don't think. If you put the Crisco on one side and then pack them full of boric acid, there's no room for the beetles to get in. So the bees will drive the beetles up into the beetle trap.
Okay. Okay. And now welcome back. Amir has the next question. Go ahead.
How's everybody doing?
Okay, welcome. We ain't seen you for a while.
Yeah, man, life.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. Last time I talked to you, you said I need to get my feet wet, right? So my thing was,
Jump in and get wet once in a while.
yeah, and I just wanted to kind of do a little more infrastructure before I got some bees. So I got a bunch of nail guns and 1/4-inch staples and brad nailers and 7/16 staples and compressors, table saw, different things like that. And got a few hives assembled, but I didn't get any bees. So
okay.
I'm hoping to get a fresh start this season. But I had a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Out yards.
Mm-hmm.
How often should you have to visit out yards? So I mean, is it a set time, or is it just kind of a intuition type of thing where you figure you got to go make sure everyone's eating? Or
well, it's not intuition. Now, when I have students here, I ask them how much time they can devote to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a full-time job, you're not going to be able to run mini nucs. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
mini nucs is the most economical way to make a queen and mate it. The next thing up is a 5-frame nuc, either medium or deep. Those is good for a person who's got a job, because if we got a honey flow coming on and you got to work, you can put a super on and you can collect some honey. The mini nuc is you're going to swarm on you or it's going to starve on you. It's high maintenance, but it's the cheapest way. The next thing is your 5-frame box.
Okay. All right. So when the flow is on, how much? Just kind of general idea. How much time do you figure it's going to take them to fill up the 5-frame nuc or 5-frame double?
What are you trying to do?
In other words, the yard that I'm using is some distance away from my home.
All right.
And I'm just trying to get an idea of how often I would have to travel there to check.
Are you setting these hives up for production of honey or for increasing bees?
For numbers.
All right, for numbers. Well, then the best thing to do is plan every 14 days.
Okay.
Mark it in your calendar, because if you check it today, in 16 days from today, you're going to have a queen and you're going to lose a swarm. So if you check them every 2 weeks or even a day or two earlier, you go completely through that hive. If you got queen cells, then you make splits. If you don't, you're losing money if you're making numbers.
Right.
If you don't have queen cells, then you can just add supers.
Okay.
And if are you running 5-frame boxes, 8 frames, or 10 frames?
Well, that was another question that I wanted to, being as though that I'm going back and forth, would it be better to use 8s or 5s?
Are you buying packages or are you buying nucs?
I'm going to buy me 2 packages, and hopefully I'm going
to. You want to start a package out in a 5-frame box.
Right.
Because you have to draw the frames out, and you have to get some drawed comb, drawed brood, some honey in there, pollen. Then you can transfer them to an 8.
Right. Okay.
Once they cover at least 3/4 of that box covering those frames, then you could add another box to the top if you're going to go the honey route.
Okay. All right. Another question was, You mentioned, I heard you on one of your other chats talking about that green frame for the drones.
Right.
Okay, now how is that actually applied?
Well,
is that just a constant frame in the hive, or is it
the
put
frame
in
is a green frame, which is nothing but drone comb, drone
Right.
cells.
Right.
Now, our mating yards, we run a green comb on the outside of each box. So we run 2 combs to the box.
Okay.
And if you're running 100 mating nukes, you need at least 20 to 25 8-frame boxes that's got the green comb. You want to flood that area with your drones.
Right. Okay.
Now, you don't have to, were you buying bees or you getting bees free?
I'm probably going to start out buying 2 packages in the beginning.
Where you live at?
I'm actually in between, what is his name? I'm actually in between, what is his name, Mark? Gentleman in Virginia?
You're up. Well,
I'm in Maryland.
Oh, you're in Maryland? Well, you might not be getting swarms this time of the year, but one thing to do is call the 911 service, your county agent, the fire department, the police department, and all the people around you that do pest control. Tell them you'll pick up swarms of bees.
Okay.
Sometimes you can get a 5-6 pound swarm of bees in the springtime free. Then you can split them, quick.
Okay.
I mean, or you can buy packages, either way.
Yeah, well, I'm probably going to have swarms around where I live at. I live in a wooded area.
Set some swarm traps up.
Yeah, I've got them around. So
okay. Now, I see a lot of people are trying to put swarm traps up, and it just looks so time consuming. Look at the video where I show how to make a French cleat. You can walk up to the tree, stick your box on it, take the old box off, and change the box out in 8 seconds. That's because I'm old. If you're young, you can do it a lot faster.
Right.
That's the quickest way. I mean, bungee straps and nailing boards to the tree is just time consuming.
Okay. One other question. I think you may have talked about this before, but business-wise, opening up and starting a apiary or bee farm. Am I just doing a regular LLC bee farm, or is it some type of different criteria that I'm coming under agriculture, or?
Why do you need the high performance motorcycle before you get that tricycle running?
Well, I don't. I'm just anticipating. I hear you. I don't
think you need to create another taxpayer right off the bat.
Right.
First, you want to get into bees, get your feet wet, and see if you're going to like it.
Okay.
Beekeeping first is going to be hard work, and then not everybody agrees to what they need to do.
Right.
So don't jump the gun on that.
No, I ain't gonna. I just was trying to get an idea of how I've been reading just about small farms in general, not just dealing with bees.
If you have a small farm in general, you don't need no other permits and stuff. You can sell off the farm.
Gotcha. Okay.
The only trouble you have is when you start to wholesale at a middleman like Kroger's, Piggly Wiggly or whatever.
Right. I got you.
Then an LLC might be an advantage. But if I'm reading what you're doing is you want to build numbers, probably sell bees. The cheapest thing to do is get you a web page. If you can't build it, E can do that. Get your name out there, getting the chats. That there doesn't cost you much. I mean, you can get yourself out there. Selling bees is not the hard thing to do.
Right. I got you. I just just precautionary purposes. I was just thinking all that.
Keep it as simple as possible. And the main thing I can say is don't overbuy stuff. People go out and get head over heels buying way too much stuff.
Okay. Well,
if you can, build the stuff yourself as much as you can.
Well, that's what I intend on doing. So we're going to work it out. I just had those questions. I've been binge watching for the last 10 months since the last time I didn't talk to you. And
10 to 30 minutes in this chat, you probably can learn probably 10 times more than working 5 hours on that internet and listening to a lot of BS.
Right.
I'll tell you right up front what works and what don't work, whether you buy bees from me or whether you don't buy bees from me. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I've got plenty of students who'll tell you the same thing.
Oh, one more question. From what I'm looking at, they're saying that the flow here in this area starts the middle towards the end of April up until June. Now,
Now I can't answer you and give you a good answer. You'd have to find.
My question to you is this: I don't know how backed up you are on bees at this point, but how late? And I know you always say that you can still make bees all along, but how late before the flow can I get some bees and at least get them established somewhat?
That's, I can answer it this way. What is your flow? Are you talking a natural flow? My flow is 365.
Got you.
Okay.
Enough said.
I make bees.
Enough said. Oh, and one more question. Yeah. These bee yards that I'm talking about, what type of how much would I have to leave them to eat off of when I'm not there for that 14 days? I notice you're using these bucket feeders at the point.
You're using hive top feeders. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Now you can use those hive top feeders. I got the plans for them. That one holds a gallon and a half, and the ones with the milk jugs hold about a quart.
Okay.
Another thing you can do is whatever you like to drink, some type of soda or something, buy a lot of them and save the bottles and drill a hole in them, drill a hole in the lid, and that's the cheapest way to feed.
Gotcha.
We drink a lot of Powerade or Gatorade, and they got that 1.5 inch hole lid on the top. Mm-hmm. So we drill those, and then we use the same lid when we use buckets.
Okay.
We get 1 gallon buckets, and we put a hole in the top, and we flip them upside down in the out yards.
Right, I saw that. Okay.
So you're going to have to adapt ways of feeding, for it. But as long as, you got a honey flow as far up there, probably right now you should have red maples off and on. I know Pat said she had her maples blooming, and Mark's got some up off of her, I believe.
I got one in my yard. It's hasn't started to blooming yet. We've been up, like tomorrow's going to be 60 to 70 here.
Yeah.
But at night it's been dropping into the 30s and the 20s. So I don't know if that's throwing it off or not, but and we're getting a lot of rain too still. So.
Ernest is up there in Pennsylvania. I've got students just about all over the place.
Right.
Dandelions up where you live, they're probably blooming a little bit now in the mornings. So
okay.
If you feed them, the thing you want to do in the springtime is put a little bit thicker feed on so they don't get too much moisture in the hive.
All right. Okay.
Year from year, it's going to change on you. Every year is going to be different.
Okay. All right, that's all I got for now. Thank you so much. Good seeing and talking to you guys again.
And over to Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
So Don, I ordered some packages. I ordered a bunch of queens as well. And I want to split those packages in two and put them in 5-frame nucs to start out with.
When are you going to do that?
Well, I'm probably only getting these delivered around the end of April.
Well, you'll be all right then.
So because I'm worried like hell for wax moth now with all of this equipment.
Well, you've heard me say I melt a lot of my stuff down. I don't particularly save it. I mean, you have to decide what you want. If they don't have heavy webbings in there and they got light webbings, you could put 1 or 2. I wouldn't put more than 2 in a 5-frame box and put a package on it. They'll clean it out. If you put a heavy with there's actual worms in that frame, chances are, I'd say a 50% chance you could lose the package because they might abscond on you.
Well, I don't have any problems with wax moth yet. I'm just worried that I'm gonna if I leave the boxes empty. I want to get my equipment filled up with bees again as quick as possible.
Either put them in a bunch of freezers or open stack crisscross them out in your garage.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. Then you have to worry about, if you get mice in there.
But you don't think I should have a problem then splitting a package in 2?
Everybody's skill level is different. I've got a bunch of them built out here now. We made a whole bunch of medium with a divider down, and I'm going to dump a 3-pound package in it and put a queen on each side. So I'm going to have 2 frames on each side with 3 pounds of bees or 1.5 pounds of bees. Then we're going to take it from there and move it into a regular 5-frame box. I'm trying to build numbers as fast as I possibly can. And then the only other thing I can do is do the same thing with queen cells. So we're not grafting yet. We can't graft. Temperature's been way too cold, up and down.
Yeah. Well, I have those four frame double nukes as well.
Yeah.
I could use them too. So I just want to build numbers too now that I don't have.
Well, the problem people have when you have such a loss as you have, they take bigger gambles and then they have bigger losses. Go easy, make a heavier, put your package in and don't try to get it down too low. Now you can get packages late.
That's what I was thinking also, is just put the packages in and do my splits in the summer when I know I'll have a better chance of the survival rate.
We will shake a bunch of packages in June and July and feed the heck out of them and then use them for overwinters for the following year.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to see how it'll work out then. All right, thanks.
Okay.
All right, over to Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Hi, Don. This is Jay Gilmer from Grayville. First time on this, so enjoy listening to you. This year is my first year I'm starting to sell. I started out with 8 hives a couple of years ago. I'm up to about 30 now, and I've got a couple of nukes that made it through the winter. I really like them. So what I'm selling really is, instead of just selling a package, I'm selling a nuke setup as far as the bottom board, top, lid, the whole 9 yards. But I had a father and son come out today, and they're interested in buying a couple of setups and then me taking care of them for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them we could work a deal out on that. My concern, though, I really hadn't thought about it until after we talked today. If I've got nuke or 5-frame setups with them going double deeps, and then I start putting honey supers on them, how stable are they going to be if wind comes through and stuff like that?
We have run 5-frame nuke boxes 3 deeps high.
Okay, so you're not having any problems with wind?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm doing that a lot of people don't do. I mean, I'm running a lot of my stuff in a thicket, so we don't get the high winds. The worst thing we get is deers, knocking stuff over. But if you run your hives close enough, even out in the open, you're going to get a wind break from one to the other.
Okay.
And as far as you doing maintenance, I've got 2 or 3 students that basically do that. They sell the nuke for what they're getting, for what that is with the equipment, and then they charge as a maintenance program. And they usually work them once or twice a month. They give the customer 1 to 2 quarts of honey. Any splits, they keep the splits. And some of them are charging $500, and some are up to $1,000. It's 12 months of the year checking them. Of course, in the wintertime, you just basically go over and make sure you got no mice in there. Put your mouse guards on, or or get them ready, or do your treatments. Now, that's another thing too. Get you a good treatment system. I've got at least 4 students that bought those Provaps, and some of them using the wand. They're charging $5 a hive, which is cheap, and there's another guy, he's charging 10.
Yeah.
He goes through and does 20 hives in a half an hour.
I started doing the wand last year. Before that, I was vaporizing.
Yeah.
Or not using fogger.
Yeah.
Which I like it, but you've got to be consistent with it to keep them going.
Right.
I lost 1 hive this year. I had bought a couple of hives, just nukes to get and put some splits in, and they just had a 3/8 opening. They were already built, put together, and I wasn't able to go in and auxiliary vaporize those. So I used my fogger on them, but I didn't get to use it but once or twice. Then winter hit, and I lost the hive on it. And I think between that and then there was sugar in there, but that's the only stores that was left in there when I found them.
How much are you selling your nukes for?
In the 5-frame box with the top and bottom and all, $250, and then if they want a double on it, another $50, so $300.
I wouldn't sell a double with it. That's the biggest mistake you can make. It's just like selling a complete hive. If you sell a nuke, you let them come over and pick the nuke up, put it in their box, and if they're going to buy the bottom box, $250 for the single story with a bottom board. If it's a shipping box, it's basically wood around the sides. You want a solid bottom on it and a hole in the middle and a migratory top. Those you get $25 just for the box. Plus, I get $175 for the bees. And if you're going to do a treatment or a maintenance program, you got to figure that on top.
Right.
So when you have them come and pick them up, unless you're delivering them, then have a queen cell ready to put in that top box. And then you don't move it until like 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock in that time frame. Never sell a nuke first thing in the morning or at night.
Okay.
That's just, you're losing your profit, because those field bees will, with a queen cell or a mated queen, either way, that starts your next box going for you.
Okay. That makes sense. So.
Well, you want to make money, you got to think about it. I mean,
I agree.
And
but no, it'll be.
People want to come over first thing in the morning. I tell people all the time, I sell my nukes between 1 and 5 because I have students in the morning. And another reason is too that you got to have your field bees to start your box back. And if you're going to sell it into their box, you never dump the box, bump it all out into their box. You just tell them, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to give you hive beetles. But you sell what is called adhering bees on the frames. You might have a couple handful at the most hanging on the side of that box. That's another little bonus for you to start that new nuke going again.
Okay. Makes good sense.
Well,
gotta make money.
It's about staying in business,
Yes, sir. Now on this one, what we talked about, I'll probably deliver the bees to them. So we'll set them up and set the hives up at their place more than likely.
The bees?
About 15 miles.
You're working for nothing, if you ask me.
If I do that though, that's with the maintenance program with it.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, if I do the other, I'll charge for delivery.
To make money, not to lose money, and have fun. Everybody's losing bees and have no fun.
Well, I hadn't had many bites on the nukes as a whole, other than the full setup. So I feel like if I can get that out there, then they'll come eventually.
If you talk to Greg. Once he got on my page there, I think his phone rang off. He's probably sold out already. So that has a benefit to it. And on this chat, you're going to deal with other people, too.
Right. That's what I'm hoping. Get my name out there and get going.
If you're, looking at it that way, it takes 1 to 3 years to really get out there to where people will, buy a lot.
Well, I've worked some things. Some of the FFA groups have an auction here every spring, and I've donated a hive to a couple of different ones. That'll get my name out there also with it. So.
Yeah.
But I want you to know, I will let somebody else get on there if they've got time, but sure have enjoyed listening to you and watching your videos.
Hope you're learning.
Okay.
I am, trust me.
Okay. Up next, it looks like Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
Hello, Don.
Hey.
I got a quick question on the pail feeders. We've got some 1-gallon buckets here, and I'm trying to decide how I want to put the hole in it. I've heard you say on the entrance feeders just to shoot the T50 staple in it, but I was wondering how you allow the bees to access the sugar syrup in the pails.
Well, the thing on the pails is you're going to have to take the lid off and on to fill it, and the seal wears out. Mm-hmm. So what you're going to have to buy is what they call an insert. And you have to take 1.5 inch boring bit and grind it on the sides to get it down undersized. Mm-hmm. They have this little round, it's a pushing plug. Mm-hmm. And then put what is the smallest drill bit, it comes in a standard drill bit box. Put 1 or 2 holes in that. Then when you flip it upside, it holds it back. Okay. If you use the lids, they work for a while, but opening and closing them and then sitting in the sun, you can usually use them about 10, 12 times and then they start to seep on you. But those inserts, my son buys them. I don't know what he buys at a time, but I think he said they run 13 or 14 cents a piece.
Gotcha. I found a website that's got those. They're like a yellow cat plug, I think they call them. And I found a website. I think the minimum you can buy is like 200 or something like that. But it's not a. It's like, I don't know, $50 or something like that. So it's
Where'd you get your buckets at?
I ordered them from Uline.
Yeah, there's a couple other companies out there, but you know, it all goes back to all of us beekeepers working together. And right now, you can drive over to, I think it's by Brazelton. There's a factory. It's a Uline distributor. You got a minimum order you can buy there. But if you want to get a big break, you got to buy 50,000 buckets at a time. And you can't use that many buckets. It's like frames. How many people can use 5,000, 10,000 frames at a time? So, you know, for an average commercial beekeeper, that's nothing.
So you're using those buckets in your out yard. So how are you drilling the holes in the top?
He's using a battery operated drill with a small drill bit. I think the one he's using, it's rated in millimeters. See, I got what they call a master drill bit set. It covers numbers, letters, metrics, every kind of drill you can imagine. The drill set, it's about, I would say it's 2 foot long, 3 or 4 layers of drills in there. It's got stuff for wire sizes. And I used a small one in there. When you drill those lids out, that plastic, you got to drill slow because the plastic gets warm, it'll bind down and bust your bit.
Gotcha. What I'm talking about, like the on the covers of the hive. Are you drilling a hole in the top cover?
Yeah.
Like cover, or, okay.
On the out yards, yeah. On the ones up here, I do half and half. I do a telescoping cover because it looks appealing to a lot of young beekeepers. But as you get bigger and bigger, everything is time related. Now, see, when he goes down there and does those buckets, he's carrying 6 buckets, 3 in each hand, and he just goes down the rows and just bumps the bucket that's on there and knocks it on the ground and then flips another bucket over. Everything's time.
Right. That was my thought of it as far as the hive top feeders. It just seems like that would take a long time just so you can fill the buckets up ahead of time and throw them in.
It's like bricks or blocks, you know. If you use plywood and put a cement block in each end, it holds the lid down. But it takes too many seconds per box to move blocks. That's why we basically went to a Vantech. It stays flat years and years and years, where brand new plywood, 5 to 6 months, it'll curl up in the corner, and then you get bees getting into your feeder.
Yeah. I found a Lowe's here close by, about 30 minutes away, had the Advantech 2330 seconds, and it was on sale. I got it for like $25 a sheet. So I got.
Yeah, that's not, you know, good. I think the last that we ended up buying, because he got in a hurry, he had to build a bunch of lids and bottoms. I think he paid $27, $28. That's with, you know, our discount. But watch for houses they're building. You know, I made a trip to the one house they built, and I got enough to do, you know, like 50, 60 boxes. And we built 50 5-frame boxes out of Advantech. Now, what I done in my Advantech, where the frame rest is, I put a coat of latex paint on there to keep it from swelling and loosening up.
You know, I got a quick question on that too. I saw in the, like on the Advantech flyer, it said not to use water-based paint. It said to use oil-based paint.
Well,
have you heard that, or?
There's people tell you don't jump off the bridge, but if you're going swimming, you got to jump off the bridge.
Right. Just use what you got.
Yeah. Use what you got, you know. The oil-based paint, I get it occasionally. I'll use it. I mean, it's not a bad paint. It lasts a lot longer, but you got to throw your brush away or spend a lot of money cleaning it. And I just buy cheap brushes and pitch them.
Gotcha. You know. All right. Thanks a bunch.
Okay.
Okay, we got time for one more question. So Patricia, you are up.
Hi, everybody. I've been trying to. I just had a couple of comments, and I'm sorry, I missed the guy's name that lives near us in Maryland. I'm in Virginia, and I wanted him to know that the University of Maryland has excellent resources for beekeepers. That's where Dr. Ramsey works out of. They have an excellent beekeeping program, and he can get information for his local area as far as when things are blooming, when nectar flow starts and things like that. They've got a really good program there. And then for Paul, he was asking about wax moths. We've had real good success this year with a product called Zentari. It's Xentari, and you mix it up and spray it on the frames and the boxes and all. And we've been real happy with that. And you don't have to do anything special to put the bees back in on it. So it doesn't stay in anything. We like it. Leon likes it. So that was all. And just hello, everybody.
Okay, then that will do it for tonight. Thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. If you want to stick around for the after chat tonight, you're more than welcome to. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
I appreciate everybody showing up. Now they can talk about me.
Now we'll talk about you.
They won't be recording.
All right, thanks, everyone.